The report came out the other day and all the newspapers jumped all over this. And as you guys know, I like to kind of go through these articles and actually trace back to the report that came out so we can kind of go through what the articles in the newspapers are picking out and what exactly is in the report. I'm Michael Ouzas. I'm a realtor in the Greater Toronto Area. Throw a comment down below on where you think home sales will be this year for Canada. And if you're in the Toronto area, throw a comment down below on what you think about Toronto home sales. If you ever want to book in a call with me, click on the first link in the description down below. So anytime I see any of these articles in any of the major newspapers here in Canada, whether it be the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, Financial Post, especially if I see something on any of the social media sites like BlogTO, I want to retrace back to where these articles came from and what exactly is the source that they're coming from. Because typically I find that they're selecting one or two headlines that are definitely attention grabbers, but they're not exactly telling the full story that's in the report. This article is no different. Let's jump into the Globe and Mail and see what they wrote, and then let's jump over to the TD Economics page to see exactly what that report says, and let's see if there's anything missing, because I'm pretty sure there is. So if we jump on to the Globe and Mail, first title is Canada will see weakest level of home sales this year since 2001. TD report forecast. This was published on January the 10th, 2023. A new report from TD Economics predicts Canada will see the weakest level of home sales since 2001 this year. Housing market outlook from economist Rishi Sandhi attributes the prediction to the poorest affordability levels since the late 80s and early 90s. Sandhi is forecasting that home sales will reach their bottom sometime in early 2023 after declining 20% from peak to trough. Let's just keep in mind that the peak was in February, March of 2022. So we have seen a ton of articles for the country in Canada and also for the city of Toronto. And it also says steep annual average price declines are expected in most of the Atlantic provinces, Ontario and in BC for 2023. Lesser drops in the prairies, Newfoundland and Labrador. CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association, said last month the actual annual home price was $632,000 in November, a 12% decline from the same month last year. November home sales totaled just over $30,000, a 40% drop from the year prior. Now, one thing I want to talk about for the next couple months is we will definitely see these news articles really take hold of the year over year decline. So if the peak was last year, January, February, March, we're going to see year over year where they're going to take January numbers from 2022 and compare them to January 2023. And there's most likely going to be a drop in pricing. Of course, we know there's going to be a drop in pricing and also with home sales. So we know that the articles, what they're going to say, and it's not going to be very pretty, especially for the first few months of 2023. So we jump over to the TD site and it says provincial housing market outlook. Home sales and prices should find their bottom this year. This is by Rishi Sandhi, economist, again published on January the 10th. First thing I want to point out is that right beside where it says that home sales will bottom sometime in early 2023, there is a chart here that also says Canadian average home prices to bottom out in 2023 as well. Something that definitely was not mentioned in that Globe and Mail article. The timing of the trough is consistent with the Bank of Canada's tightening cycle, which we expect to culminate with one additional modest hike, 25 bips in January. And that's coming up very soon next week. They're going to be meeting. And here it is, 2023 is likely to mark the weakest sales year since 2001. The next paragraph right here, Canadian average home prices are also projected to bottom out in early 2023. We're sticking with our long-held view, home prices will experience a peak to trough decline of around 20%, and most markets have actually hit that already, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. That is even with a somewhat steeper near-term price decline baked in versus our September projection. Now, that Globe and Mail article did mention this, that steep annual average price declines are expected to take place in most of the Atlantic region, Ontario and BC in 2023. However, declines in the latter two markets, Ontario and BC, will more than retrace the gains made in 2022, which is not the case for the Atlantic. Growth in Canadian home sales and average prices should return to positive territory on an annual average basis in 2024. The last piece here, how the supply picture evolves represents a risk to our price forecast. If higher rates and economic weakness result in significant amounts of forced selling on the part of home buyers, that should say homeowners, price growth could be weaker than expected. It's just a great example of how when you see an article in the newspaper, don't always just take it for face value and be sure to read the entire article in its entirety. Also, if they are referencing a report, maybe check out that report to get the full details so that way you're not leaving any stone left unturned and just going by the one major headline that's in that newspaper. Anyway, I find it interesting and that's why I like to break these down on the channel. Thanks for watching.